Round number 3 of the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown is ready to begin from iRacing's virtual Phoenix Raceway. We welcome all of you into live coverage on Racecraft TV as we enter the middle portion of this season's campaign. I'm your host Joshua Lee, joined alongside Evan Pasoko. And Evan, as we go into this third round of the season, there's a lot for these drivers to play with. Charlotte saw the intermediate track, Sonoma saw the road course, and Phoenix sees a bit of a short track and intermediate track hybrid before we go to the 2.5 mile super speedway at Talladega and the very short Stafford Motor Speedway.
It is going to be a unique challenge, right? I mean, these are a lot of the things we were talking about last time out, right? The unique challenge of a Sonoma. And, well, yes, Phoenix falls in as one of the 4 oval races. You can't compare it to any of the other tracks, even to Stafford on the shorter end, right? This kind of fits perfectly in the middle. And Phoenix is an interesting track in and of its own right? Obviously, this is the newer configuration of the Phoenix Raceway. But one big thing to note, the dogleg that this racetrack is so well known for is not going to be usable tonight. These drivers will be restricted from cutting that kink down to turn number 1. So that is going to be a big impact on what we see out of this race.
And that kink, of course, pretty famously used, but also now with the recent reconfigurations of this course, a little bit more of a strategic move on the NASCAR side, where they all are cutting it right after the start-finish line here that just got moved to after the old turns 1 and 2 complex. But this Phoenix Raceway, a lot of history baked into this track. The most recent addition to the track's history has been the NASCAR season finale over the last couple of years, and this is an track that is unique in its own right. We're just leaving Pocono, a 3-turn triangle in the real world, and Phoenix is its own 3-turn triangle at that, a little bit longer on one end, so we count that as 2 turns, but either way, it still is one of the more oddly or uniquely shaped tracks on the calendar, I should say.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? You go to a normal oval and you essentially have 2 corners, and we call that 4. Here we're really undercounting the corners, right? You can see a look there on the back straightaway where those drivers will not be able to go below that yellow line, unlike you'll see in basically every NASCAR race since the repave where they're going to go all the way down to the fence. But that's basically a turn, right? It's almost a tri-oval, if you will, just after the start-finish line. When that dogleg's open, you're going to have drivers trying to time restarts, trying to get to the bottom. You're going to see a little bit less gamesmanship. But I also think because they're working in a tighter box, if you will, then people aren't going to be able to get separation. It's going to be harder to get clear on some of the restarts. So that real flat turns 1 and 2 that's on the far end of this straightaway that we're looking at now, I think is going to be a little bit tighter for real estate than what we're used to seeing when the dogleg's open, right? So you change one aspect of the racetrack and it all kind of snowballs down to this end where then they can start to flirt with the yellow line, try to hook that car up and get around there. So it'd be interesting to see how these drivers in these old school stock cars are able to navigate that run into the corner and really muscle memory. Don't take it the way that you normally would. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is what impact does that have on the restarts and even the green flag runs when it comes to tire wear.
So we've seen the schedule. We've now talked about this Phoenix Raceway. Now let's talk about where we are currently in the point standings. Coming off of the road course of Sonoma, and these points could not be much tighter at the front. The entire top 10 separated by 11 points, and that tied for 10th with Dustin Monberquette sees Presley Sora tied for that 10th spot just outside of this picture we're taking a look at here. Blake Reynolds, Seth Ryder, the 2 race winners so far, with Reynolds' very consistent run at Charlotte. He ekes out over Seth Ryder by 2 points, but we can't count out William Hale, can't count out Jonathan Otez, can't count out Zach Novak, Schildhouse, Parisi, Maines. I mean, the names in this top 10, Evan, you can look at the Coke Series, you can look at a lot of high-ranked leagues and series across the iRacing service, and you see these exact same 10 names.
Yeah, you're going to see these names, and the big thing is as well, right? This is going to be the halfway point of the season. So as we work through tonight, you're really going to start to quickly go from saying, you know, hey, he's only 2 back. Oh, he's only 6 back, 7 back, 10 back, right? I mean, that's not a bad number now. But then once we get after tonight, you're going to be going into a super speedway race, a short track after that. So while we kind of just got things underway, those intervals that seem small now going to feel a little bit bigger at the end of the night, right? That's going to be true for each race from this point on. So if you want to compete for this championship, you're going to have to be here every single week, and race wins could be the difference maker, not in the just winning the race aspect, but maximum points, right? I mean, it's very clear these names are going to be drivers finishing in the top 5, in the top 10. They're going to be up there. You're going to have to find something that puts you ahead of the rest of the pack.
We're going to see what happens tonight, as it is time to take a look at your starting grid for all of tonight's action in the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown. And taking the pole position, going exactly right back to where he was last time out at Sonoma, it is Blake Reynolds, who will lead the field down to the green flag, with Garrett Maines, another eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series competitor, to his outside. Seth Ryder, winner from Charlotte Motor Speedway, will start in 3rd. James Bickford will start outside of that 2nd row in 4th, with Presley Sora rounding out the top 5. Jonathan Otez to the outside of that 3rd row, with Nate Stewart, David Schildhouse, Joey Mazowitz, and Vinny Tigner rounding out the top 10 on the grid. Andrew Player, Brandon Proudfoot going to share that 6th row. Further back, Jeff Maconi will start in P13, Brett Pancari P14. Top 15 will be rounded out by Josh Edmondson, with Dakota Bro starting in P16, Eric Sellers P17, then Zach Knowles in 18th, Sean Winkler 19th, and rounding out the field will be Trevor Edwards, not taking a time in qualifying. He'll start to the outside of row 10 in P20. So as the field now rolls off here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway, we'll take one quick look at that race analysis, Evan, which is fairly interesting to look at. 100 laps will race here tonight. Definitely not the longest race that could be run here on this track, but that fixed setup, and I think especially that fuel window, 85 to 90 laps these drivers can make it on fuel. If we get at least one yellow flag, these drivers are going to be good to the end.
That's going to be critical, and I think it's not necessarily a question of if, but when, right? You see some early, you may see some drivers try to get the fuel in at the start of this race, so that could be the difference maker for some of the drivers who don't have the track position here to start.
Pace car already down into the safety of the pit lane, but that field still being held at a pace speed. They will get around to the exit of the final corner. See that Geico restart zone, and the green flag is underway. It's round 3 of the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown. Clean start for everyone at the front, and we're already seeing a battle for the race lead. Garrett Maines just overtook Blake Reynolds for that spot, and he now will try and lead this field at the front. In the number 31 machine, the 66 still right behind, and both of these drivers up at the front. Evan, you know them both very well, calling them on consecutive Tuesday nights in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. They know how to race each other, and I think they know really how to push each other to the limit, which is going to make this lead battle very, very interesting.
It's always going to be intimidating if you're in the position of James Bickford sitting there in the 3rd spot, a great race in his own right, but you're looking up at 2 black stripes in 1st and 2nd spot. And the biggest thing is not necessarily the fact that, you know, these drivers race against each other in the Coke Series. It's just the fact that they race against each other, right? Maines and Reynolds are very familiar with each other's driving styles. You saw Reynolds going high in 1 and 2, now trying to look a little bit low and underneath Garrett Maines, that time in 3 and 4. So they have plenty of experience and history together. It means that they kind of know each other's MO. It also means that they can push a little bit more when racing one-on-one and have confidence in the fact that the next driver down the line is not going to take him out. But Reynolds is the one trying to come up with solutions early, and Garrett Maines doing a good job at defending from the number 1 spot.
It looks like these two are already going after it at the front of this field, as James Bickford just kind of watching in the wings. Who else is also back there? Seth Ryder in the 2 in the Next Level Racing colors. He, of course, is the winner from the first opening round of the season at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He's looking for some more success here for the virtual Phoenix Raceway, as we see a little bit of a side-by-side battle a little bit further back. That is Joey Mazowitz to the outside in the number 64, Nate Stewart to the inside in the number 4 machine. And I gotta say, Evan, I'm loving that number 64 paint scheme on the outside line as a Casey Kane fan myself, and that 2006 paint scheme brings back some pretty good memories.
Well, and as a man of culture, I think the biggest thing that I'm a fan of is the Dodge Charger livery on it as well, right? Throwing it back to the days of seeing Dodge in NASCAR, and plenty of options for the painters with these templates on these, what are technically Chevy Impalas, to give them a little bit of character. And Masowicz trying to do his best in the 64 to dig through this field here, up a spot, but even that's not guaranteed because Nate Stewart is not going to lie down. The 4 car wants to continue to fight back, and he's working those General tires hard up on the top side. You jump on board with Stewart. He's going to get a good run off of 2 and down the back straightaway now, pulling back in front to the 64.
Great move by Nate Stewart, but he's not going to clear him yet. He'll stay on the outside line going through this final corner, and now everybody going to funnel into line. But as I say that, a crossover move to the inside. That's 91 of Vinny Tigner. A little bit further back in the field. P10 currently looking for 9th on the 64 of Mazowitz, as we see the Maconi setup shop colors of Andrew Player back here, P11. And then it is a number 58 on the outside line. Next Level Racing colors there. But how about the driver on the inside, our own Jeffrey Maconi, Evan, and very, very familiar paint scheme colors on that number 03 tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had some Wonder Bread the other day when we were having a bit of a barbecue. So hopefully he represents well, and hopefully for his sake, he doesn't necessarily end up like Ricky Bobby tonight. But there he is, bottom of the screen, rocking the VR goggles and giving us the inside look. He's got his racing gloves on and all. The one thing I can't see, though, is he a shoes or a socks guy? Obviously, he likes socks because they're about up to his knee. Curious if he's rocking some racing shoes as well down there. But Jay's in a good position right now in the number 12 spot. That's up one early, ahead of the likes of Josh Edmondson, Proudfoot, Punkari, and more. So good in the midfield here, and it's a little bit of Maconi on Maconi action as Jeff Maconi tries to get around. That Maconi set up shop Chevrolet in front of him of Andrew Player. He'll look to the inside to turn 3, and he's getting a little bit loose when he tosses it in like that.
An aggressive move on his own driver for Maconi's setup shop eSports. Is Maconi going to try and make that move on Player? Getting very close, and we mentioned it top of the show, Evan, how that dog leg is closed off. There are cones down there. They cannot go beneath those cones or else they will face a time penalty that they will have to give up for cutting the course. We just saw a little bit of what that can do just now. It's going to keep these drivers, when they're running side by side, tighter up on this racetrack, as you see all of them staying above that yellow line to avoid getting that time penalty.
Hey, that's going to be critical, right? I mean, obviously it was important on the initial start of the race. Once you're under green, drivers don't use that dog leg as much unless you're in a heated battle. Then somebody's going to go down to the inside. It's really just to establish inside positioning. But on your own, you don't cut that dog leg like some people do at some of the intermediate tracks where there's a pretty significant apron in the front stretch, right? The quad over the tri-oval, where it's almost a part of every single lap. It's not really how it is here at Phoenix. Most of that impact comes with not being able to go there on restarts. I think they're going to be able to settle into that modified rhythm pretty easily as you look off at the back of Jonathan Oates in the number 73 machine. You're looking back to Nate Stewart, who rides in 8th. Joey Masowitz behind 9th. And then Vinny Tiggener rounding out your top 10 in the midfield. These drivers unable to pull away from each other, but the race leaders have been able to stretch a little bit ahead of this mid group. A lot of speed in those top 4 and 5.
You can see the 4 trying to get to the inside of Otes right now, and that's Nate Stewart back there in P8 as we check back in with the drivers up at the front, and it's still the 2 eNASCAR competitors that are pushing each other to the limit at the front. And James Bickford and Seth Ryder haven't been able to do much from 3rd and 4th right now, but they're looking like they're wanting to get involved, and so does Blake Reynolds as he flexes those General tires to their max as he tried to go to the inside here in turn number 2, but could not get that move made. Maines holds the lead, but Seth Ryder is done waiting around. He'll make a dive to the inside of the 29 of James Bickford, and a beautiful move on that Next Level Racing number 29. Couldn't clear him across the line, but as they go through the dog leg, give 3rd officially to the 2 of Seth Ryder.
So Seth Ryder doing a good job of moving his way back through the field. Over, he started this race in 3rd initially until Bickford was able to make an early race pass. Now that has righted the ship for the drivers in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And of course, Garrett Maines started this race in 2nd, but he's been able to lead all 15, now 16 laps complete so far this afternoon in the Avondale Desert. So you got to feel like Reynolds, who sat on pole in this race, edged out Maines by a 100th of a second over the qualifying session. Wants to be able to prove his point, but if he doesn't start to get aggressive like he was in those opening laps with the charge coming from a rider who's just hot on their heels, he might be facing pressure from behind. So I think that's why you're seeing Reynolds pick up the pace again. Those 3 cars behind are coming, so he needs to go for the race leader. He's going to be in a world of trouble as those cars behind him start to catch up.
And still a lot of time left in this race as well, and the strategy really isn't going to break this race up much because it's 85 to 90 laps on that fuel window, so we're not really going to see pit stops until the very, very end of this race. Or if these drivers are feeling adventurous, and maybe some of the drivers in the back, like Zach Knowles, like Eric Sellers, towards the edge of this top 15, maybe trying to save a little bit of fuel, to maybe save enough fuel to make it all the way to the end. I don't think with the yellow yellow flag, they'll definitely be able to make it to the end now with the stop, and maybe they'll be able to save enough to just stay out and still make it to the end of that 100 lap distance on fuel. But the fuel window's not going to break this race up much, so it's really going to be one long green flag run until you kind of run out of fuel and then end up having to pit, unless the general tires give out before that fuel window kicks in.
Yeah, we referenced earlier, right, the caution flags could be an impact on that, because if you only need to pit once in the race, you're going to come in either all the way at the end or pit towards the middle, right? You kind of got two options in that regard. But if we mention, you know, you get a yellow in the first 15 or 20, then some drivers might come in because they're good to the end. But aside from that, I don't expect anybody to come in way early and on your own. It's just too much of a risk to early pit and then be stuck a lap down for a significant amount of time. That's why I'm thinking you're going to see most drivers either at the midway point or, as you mentioned, they're going to push it basically until that thing's out of fuel and to make that final pit stop and save time on pit road, because you're not going to need to fill the tank all the way up if you pit, say, with 20 or 15 laps to go. But Blake Reynolds has been reinvigorated, and he's going to go to the inside looking for the race lead.
Side by side for the lead at Phoenix off of turn 4, crossing the start-finish line, and Maines with a beautiful exit off the final corner is going to hold on to that race lead. Reynolds isn't done. Here comes the move back to the bottom for the 66. Gives a little bit of a touch to that apron with those left general tires. Side by side again now down the back straightaway. Maines is able to pull the number 66 and back to the lead, and now defensive down into turn number 1 goes Garrett Maines. Reynolds has to look high, but even on the long way around, Reynolds cannot get by Garrett Maines. He'll try and stay side by side back to turn 1, but that outside line has not been the preferred one yet. Reynolds goes wide, but so does Maines. The crossover move now from the Jim Beaver eSports machine, the number 66, so Reynolds going side by side yet again.
And you have to wonder if overthinking that one a little bit was Garrett Maines. He went up to shut the 66 off, but Reynolds was thinking about that crossover all the way there. This time by, Reynolds leads his first lap of the afternoon, but now it's an inverse. It's Maines on the outside and Reynolds down low now. He'll push the 31 all the way up to the outside wall, but Maines is going to get the run off of the corner, but these two are still deadlocked nose to nose and side by side in the battle for the race lead. Now on the inside, Reynolds gets all the way through, but now it's Maines' turn to cross him over.
Side by side for a yet another lap. Reynolds back to the high side, Maines back to the low side. So they race back to turn number 1. Maybe about 2 feet separating these two competitors at the front. Seth Ryder is looking at this battle, just thinking, what is going to happen if both of these drivers make contact and send each other up the racetrack? Reynolds is able to clear Maines. Now Reynolds gets defensive on the bottom of the racetrack, and that is going to be lead change for the number 66. And now Maines from the back bumper of the number 66 will have to try and reset and get that move back again as they work their way through turns 1 and 2 yet again. And Maines falling back a little bit now, maybe wondering if a bit of tire wear or wanting to save a bit of fuel now that he's lost that race lead.
Well, and that goes back to what we referenced in the opening laps of this race, right? Talking about Reynolds and Maines having raced against each other in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And I said, you know, it's not really the series that's the important thing. It's their experience together. And you saw it in that past battle, right? Being able to anticipate the move that the other driver is going to make, being able to basically sit on each other's door without worry for those cars bouncing off each other, going into the fence or spinning it around. So those are two drivers who are very comfortable with their own car control, but also very comfortable with what the driver around them is going to do. And that's some of the best stuff you'll see. And as we saw, Reynolds in the end ends up in front. It's going to be his turn to lead a couple of laps after Maines led the opening 22. And now we'll see, right? I felt like some of this pressure from Reynolds was spurred by the fact that Ryder was coming back through the field. He and Bickford were able to stay within touch of your top two for so long. Now that Reynolds has got the clean air and is trying to pull away just a little bit, I have to wonder, can Ryder and Bickford stay there? Or are we going to see at least 1 or 2 cars at the front of the field start to pull away? Because we're nearly 30 laps into this race at Phoenix, and your top 4 are still less than a second separated. So that's really good and even raised it amongst your top 4 cars with Reynolds, Maines, Ryder, and Bickford.
And back from there, as we take a look at the intervals on our timing tower now, everybody's starting to spread their way on out as we go into the middle portion now of a fuel run, as towards the tail end of the top 5, David Schildhaus finds himself just outside that top 5, and at the tail end of the top 5, it is the 98 of Presley Sora, as Sora now trying to get back in further into the top 10 of those points. Comes in tied for 10th with Dustin Momberket. With no Momberket in the field tonight, gives Presley Sora a great opportunity to pick up some much needed points and try and close himself into that points championship at the front of the field.
Hey, that's going to be the goal all the time, right? We referenced what those top runners are doing. Blake Reynolds leading those championship points coming into this afternoon, leading this race at the moment. Riders up there. William Hale is somebody who I mentioned, you know, that you're going to need to be able to make all these races if you want to be in the conversation. Hale not here tonight, so that's going to open up the door for Jonathan Oates in the 73 machine to jump up there. So you're going to see a little bit of shuffling around through the running order, but the one constant, I think, is Reynolds. And you know, listen, Garrett Main's a really talented race car driver. He came into it tonight tied for 6th, only 9 points off Reynolds. But if Blake Reynolds is running like this, that 9 can feel like a lot bigger number. Remember, this is the midway point of the year, but it's the third to last race as well. This is not a long championship. There are not a lot of opportunities to make up for maybe points that you might have given away in a past race.
And now Maines is losing a little bit of touch to that General Tire 66 at the front of the field of Blake Reynolds. 4/10 currently separate these two at the front. That battle between Schildhaus and Sora has gotten even tighter now, as Presley Sora sits in 5th, David Schildhaus sits in 6th, and now Jonathan Oates wants a little bit of a piece of the pie. He is about to catch up to this group as we take a look at the battle for 5th. Off the nose of Jonathan Oates, and he has David Schildhaus, who just recently in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Portland was on the spotter stand for Anthony Alfredo, and Presley Sora, of course, social media for Maconi Setup Shop, knows how to race as well. He was the Monday Night Racing Road to Glory champion in the inaugural and only season of that championship earlier this year.
One, of course, biggest news from David just a couple of weeks ago as well, the fact that he's joined the Tommy Joe Martins group at Team Alpha Prime as an assistant general manager with that team. So that's a big thing for him as well, joining the 44 and the 45 program with the NASCAR Xfinity Series, but still knows how to get around here on the sim. You know, outside of the streaming and all his other duties, he has been known to make good runs and win a lot of these important races and one-off series on the service, and right now he's getting a little bit of defense practice, trying to hold off that number 73 machine behind Jonathan Oates, as you mentioned, but unable to sneak through is the 73 car, so Schildhaus can continue to worry about Sora. He's up 2 spots. That's one of the bigger movers today. We haven't seen a ton of movement through the field.
Biggest mover currently up 6 spots is Trevor Edwards, and he sits P14 currently on the racetrack as we continue to look at this 3-car battle, and Schildhaus just doesn't look like he knows exactly where to go. And that brings up an interesting point about Phoenix Raceway, Evan, is that passing can be pretty difficult here, especially when we close off that dog leg, because it kind of has this, I call it the Nashville Super Speedway syndrome, which it's kind of a mix of 2 tracks. It's not a short, I wouldn't call it a short track, even though it's a mile long. I wouldn't call it an intermediate, because it's definitely not that fast. However, it's very difficult to make passes unless you kind of be aggressive, like we saw with Blake Reynolds and Garrett Maines, where we saw the aggression of trying to kind of move each other out of the way to make those passes happen. So it can be difficult for a driver like Schildhaus, who is just kind of trying to find a leisurely way to get by Sora with no real speed difference between the two, and he's struggling to try to find a way around the 98.
So what you're saying is Phoenix falls into the middle child syndrome.
I believe, yes, that is a much better name.
Everybody pays attention to the older siblings, right? The bigger tracks. We have a lot more definite definitions of those racetracks. And of course, we know about the short tracks. We talk a lot about some of the characteristics of those. And then there's a Phoenix, right? It doesn't really match either of those and doesn't get maybe as much attention as it deserves. So if you are like Phoenix Raceway and suffer from middle child syndrome, thoughts are with you. But I think that's a good way to put it right? It is a unique racetrack. It's not a short track, but it's not a big track. It's right in between, and it has unique characteristics of both, which is why you mentioned you need to be aggressive to make the moves, but you don't necessarily need to put a bumper to somebody, right? Aerodynamics, not a huge concern, but you can't tear up your race car, right? There are a mix of what it's going to take to be successful at a track like this, and I think that Presley Sora has figured out what he needs to do to defend against Shieldhouse here, right? We've seen in some of the other battles for the lead, for some of the other spots through the field, drivers try up high, try down low, and Sora's realized, listen, down there in 1 and 2, I can leave the bottom open because I'm going to be able to carry the speed off the back straightaway. Here, I don't necessarily want to allow him to get underneath me because he's going to be right on my bumper into the corner here, but watch it again. Sora nowhere near the yellow line, right? If David Shieldhouse wants to go down there, it is open for the taking because the 98's not worried about that. He's going to get the run here off of 2, and then when we get back down to this end of the racetrack, he'll be a little bit more concerned with sealing off the inside. There he goes down to the bottom.
Did you see how sideways Presley Sora was going into that corner? I mean, I'm looking at these cars, and of course they began on the sim as the NASCAR Nationwide cars back when it was the Nationwide Series. Then they kind of grew into the K&N cars. Now they're kind of this hybrid between ARCA cars, and then of course used in the most notable series to me, the Winstel Gen 4 Challenge, where they're used as old Generation 4 Cup cars. But they're very, very short track driven, even though you can drive them on super speedways, you can drive them on intermediates and road courses, but on short tracks they just have this super late model type quality to them where you kind of throw them into the corner and they get almost sideways. As speaking of sideways, Shieldhouse gives a little bit of a shot to the tail quarter panel of the 98 Asura. Otez, who is just in the wall off of turn 2, is trying to go to the inside of the 20. He'll get there, make a little bit more contact with Shieldhouse as Presley Sora runs away from this whole group. P5. Here comes Nate Stewart in 4th.
Yeah, Sora is going to be very fortunate to get away from this one, right, because he messed up his flow. He allowed Shieldhouse to get under him in 3 and 4, and that isn't what he wanted, but David got a little bit too hot into 1, pushed up the hill, was forced to be aggressive, make contact with Sora, and it really just handed a free position to Jonathan Otez, who in his own right really wasn't, as you mentioned, doing a ton to help himself out, having just been into the fence a quarter before that. So it's basically a free spot for the 73. I still think Shieldhouse likely faster than the 2 cars in front of him, but I referenced, we haven't seen a lot of big movers. Your biggest mover is Zach Knowles. He's plus 4 positions way back in traffic. That's not a ton. So difficulty passing, even if you've got a little bit of a better race car. A big story is James Bickford, first car to pit road, just shy of halfway for green flag service.
He comes in, not sure if he ended up making contact with the wall or anything. Doesn't look like he did. So this is going to be a bit of a scheduled pit stop for the Charlotte Phoenix Next Level Racing number 29. It is pit stall he goes, and interesting to see if this will be a 4-tire stop. If he's going to grab all 4 general tires on there, yes, he will. It looks like Presley Sora's also in, Nate Stewart, Jeff Maconi's in as well. So, okay, this looks to be about the time where those general tires are going to need a swap. And at halfway, it's not a terrible decision here, Evan, to get the fresh shoes on and make a run towards the end.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? In a reference, you're really not going to see cars pit early because it's not worth the risk of running a significant amount of the race off of the lead lap. But you had 2 main options: pit at halfway, or as you referenced, go a little bit longer, pit towards the end. The deciding factor for that's obviously going to be how long those general tires work. You can see Jeff Maconi taking a look at him down on the bottom of the screen, 14.5 in and out as he goes for 4 tires. That's going to be the decision for everybody. I should note, though, Presley Sora with trouble on pit road. The 98 is still stationary, and after Sora was in that great battle for 4th position, he caught the fence before the pit cycle. I wonder if he's getting damage bare, but Sora's night may have ended in the blink of an eye. I would expect the rest of your race leaders, though, in shortly. It's not a ton of fall off, Josh. We're looking at about 1.2 to 1.3 seconds from their faster times earlier tonight, so you could certainly go longer if you want to, but it's already a third of the field who's been in. Nobody really, though, from up at the front. Your highest pitter was James Bickford, who started this race in 4th.
And it could also be the point that the tires aren't getting worn, so to speak. They're not losing a lot of time, but they could just be getting worn down to the point that maybe it could be blown tire scares for a lot of these drivers. I've had that happen where the tires didn't really feel that bad, but they're just worn all the way down, and eventually they will kick the can and end up blowing up, and you end up into the outside retaining wall. At the front, nobody else has come into the pit lane, as Vinny Tigner is going to be the next driver in. He pitted from P6 in that number 91, so he's in for service now, dropping down the leaderboard, but still nobody in the front of the field has come in. This is the duo of Eric Sellers and Dakota Bro, the next two.
Yeah, they're going to head down to the pit lane. Listen, they're going to go for forward fuel. No shock there. They're going to be able to get to the end of this race easily. I would think your leaders are going to come in soon. You can see the stint totals on the left-hand side of your screen on the General Tire scoring pylon. Top 9 cars still yet to come down to the pit lane. Bickford, the first car to pit. He and Stewart were in the same lap. That's why they've been out there for 4 laps on that current stint. But you know, when you can tell that it's kind of that tire wall and it's time to come in is when you see separation. And we have made it very clear in the first half of this race is even from the lead. Reynolds kicking the back end off of 2, still driving that car aggressively, that we didn't see separation, right? We went through the opening 30 laps of this race with the top 5 cars still separated from each other by less than 1.5 seconds. All of a sudden, Reynolds is 4/10 up on Mains. That's still pretty tight, but then Ryder's way back 4 seconds off, as we'll see Shieldhouse from 8th and Knowles from 9th come down pit road. So when you start to see intervals like that, it means that those tires are due, and we should see your leaders in shortly as more cars come down to the pit lane. Still waiting on your top 7 to come down for service.
And being now over halfway to go, this might be the moment that these drivers are waiting for, to have those fresher tires towards the end. But now, Evan, are we getting concerned with maybe an overcut from James Bickford here, who pitted first, as now here comes the 38 of Mains in and barely being able to make pit lane speed in that number 31 Chevrolet. He hits the timer and goes into the pit lane. Seth Ryder is going to follow him in from 4th.
It's going to be an interesting case for Bickford, right? Because obviously when you come down to the pit lane, you're going to start running lap times quicker. So you're going to be about a second faster each lap. He was in 4th. So there's a real good chance as Proudfoot's also in. And now Garrett Mains is down pit road. That is a big stop coming up for the driver of the 31 machine as he comes in from 2nd. But I think Bickford's definitely going to go to the race lead. But again, he's already been eating up those tires, right? Look at his stint, already 8 laps in. Masowitz, 12 laps in. So then they're going to be slower once Mains gets back out there. And now Blake Reynolds is going to respond as well. So he might have a chance to lead some laps in this race. I don't know if it's going to win the race for James Bickford, but your race leaders have come down pit road. It was a pretty clean stop that time for Mains, 14.9 in the box. A little bit on the longer end. Let's see what the number ends up for Blake Reynolds as he comes in from 1st.
Number 66 in for 4 fresh General tires. Now we just wait on Brett Pancari to make his pit stop, and better watch that gap starting to tick down as Blake Reynolds is still in the pit lane. And guess who is going to go to the lead? It's James Bickford in the Next Level Racing number 29. He has still yet to pit. Same thing with Andrew Player, same thing with Brett Pancari, but Bickford, the net race leader. And take a look at who takes net 2nd. It's Nate Stewart in the 4. Net 3rd place, Evan, Garrett Mains in the 31. Reynolds waited just a little bit too long. He is net 4th place with a lot of time to try and make up, to the tune of roughly about 20 seconds now on the track.
That's going to be the big swing, and now we're going to see it all start to go in the other direction. Once Player and once Pancari come down pit road, going to put a nice bow tie on it, and as expected, Bickford cycles through to the net race lead, and then Mains, Stewart, and Reynolds. So, you know, I don't think that the undercut, if you will, is going to win the race for Bickford, but how about Mains, right? He was behind Reynolds. He comes in just 2 laps sooner, and he gets 2 seconds out of it. That could be a sustainable gap. So I'm thinking the 31 machine may have nailed this. That's not guaranteed. A lot of it also comes down to what kind of traffic you blend back out into, but he's in a good spot. He's got a bit of clean air. He's got cars in Stewart and Knowles Funny behind him that are separating him from Reynolds. So Blake Reynolds, I think, would have wanted to pit a couple of laps earlier, and I think Garrett Maines has nailed this strategy, assuming this thing can stay green through the next 42.
Still green as we see Seth Ryder, who had some issues on the pit lane, lost a ton of time to the rest of his group that he was racing, which was Maines, was James Bickford, and was Blake Reynolds, who are now both net first, second, and fourth on the track, and Ryder net seventh, now behind our friend Jeff Maconi, who it's been a little bit too long and it's been a little bit too quiet here in the booth. As Ryder goes by Jeff Maconi, this is about the perfect time to bring him into the booth here, as you just got past Jeff by the two of Seth Ryder. I could not think of any better time to hear from you, and how your race is going.
Oh, gee, thanks. What an introduction. Jeff, you've been passed. How about you come talk to us?
Humble him.
Yeah, humble. Well, you've been trash-talking my socks. You've been trash-talking my driving.
No,
now.
listen, I don't dislike the socks. I'm just curious, do you have shoes with the socks? That was all.
I do.
See, there you
I
go.
hope I'm on camera. Yeah.
Yes, we got you. That was my only question. Carry on.
Look at that. I'm still. I can.
Hey, you don't need the break. It's all right.
we're just relaxing.
Yeah, break's overrated.
I got this stupid bar in the middle of my playseat rig that I got for free out of some guy's garage. Gosh, I sure wish I could upgrade to a next level racing sim one of these days. And yeah, race is going well. Gambled a bit on strategy, kind of hoping for a caution here soon. If not, oh well. Shieldhouse passed me, Ryder passed me. That's not surprising given them, but Joey is out here in the sort of sister scheme to mine. I got the beautiful Speed Racer scheme he painted, and he's in a nice Racer X scheme, so going side by side with him was pretty fun, and now we're just cruising. We got 38 laps to go, still plenty of time for something to happen. I'm just gonna keep going in circles and try and hold on to ninth here.
We'll keep going in the very weird circle that is Phoenix Raceway. A bit more of a triangle, I think, than a circle, but good luck in the rest of this race. Hopefully we're talking to you on the podium, but I think both you and me both know you're going to need a caution late for that to happen.
Absolutely. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to do everything I can to get this Maconi Setup Shop, the Sim Racer Movie, a Bruzy Racewear, WSMN Broadcasting, Ron the Snack Guy, beautiful Speed Racer scheme up towards the front. I got this awesome Philip Hill shirt on. You can't see it under the seat belts, but it's a very cool Phil the Thrill Hill shirt. Thank you very much to the family for sending that to me. We're all thinking about them and wishing them the best. It's, you know, you wish you could be wearing shirts like this and talking about people under happier circumstances, but we're all thinking of the family, and very, very grateful for the times that we all had, and doing what we can to remember.
Well, we wish them the best and you the best in the rest of this race. Jeff, go get him. Try and come home with the top 10.
Thank you, sir.
That was Jeff Maconi, currently running in P9, looking to hold on to that P9 spot as 35 laps to go, and Evan at the front of the field. Andrew Player still has yet to pit. Same thing with Brett Pancari, but you just saw the 98 of Presley Sora go screaming on by, and Presley Sora now on 18-lap-old tires. Seems like Player and Pancari both at this point sitting ducks, just waiting on the rest of the field to work their way through, as we see that number 35 of Brett Pancari, and take a look at that gap now shrinking between himself and Garrett Maines. It is a 6.3 second gap and only falling.
Yeah, I thought that Garrett Maines was going to be the one to win out in this cycle, right? We talked about Bickford cycling through to the lead, but I think Blake Reynolds is about 2 to 3 laps away from making the pass for the race win. He was able to get around the cars. Remember I mentioned there was a battle that was separating Maines and Reynolds, which was really going to help him out. Well, Reynolds was able to navigate that pretty easily. Remember, he came down to the pit lane just one lap later than what we saw to Garrett Maines, but the 66 has been digging, right? And this doesn't necessarily come down to just the tires, because of these two, on the long run, Reynolds was faster than Maines. Remember, he was able to pull to nearly half a second before they came down pit road. So that's not to say that Maines didn't nail the pit strategy, as Reynolds just about nailed the fence off of turn number 4. But I think it's a combination of Reynolds being a little bit better on the cold tires, and that he's probably a little bit better on the long run. Again, yes, we're still waiting on player Pancari to come down to the pit lane. They might be able to go another 10+ laps, but when, I think not if, but when Reynolds is able to find his way to the inside or the outside, Garrett Maines, the pass for the race win is going to be hanging in the balance.
Across the line this time by 31 laps to go, as still waiting on those top two to hit the pit lane for 4 fresh General tires. Seems like they're trying to run the tanks out of fuel before they hit the pit lane for fresh tires. But down the back straightaway now, the battle for the net race lead. It's Garrett Maines versus Blake Reynolds. Exactly how we began this race, it looks to be how we are going to end this race, with 30 laps to go this time by. Maines leads over Reynolds. How aggressive is Reynolds willing to get, and how patient is Reynolds willing to be? With 30 laps to go, we are at a mile-long racetrack running about 28-second lap times, 29-second lap times as the tires start to wear. That's not a lot of time. However, just looking at that lap count, you still have a lot of revolutions around this track to go. Reynolds cannot get too eager too quick.
Yeah, that's going to be the key for him, right? I mean, he's been able to close the gap so quickly. He's going to want to make that pass fast. But remember, I don't think time is against him. Time's certainly on his side. I referenced that he was a better car on the long run first half of this race, and that's why I think he needs to take it easy. But also, you got to be careful if you're that third of Garrett Maines, right? You know that Reynolds has the speed to push late in the run, so you have to anticipate that that's going to come. But with 27 laps, it could happen in 5 laps, 10 laps, 15, 20, 25, or now. So the 31 needs to be careful. He needs to not overdrive the race car. He still has something left to defend with later, but he can't hang off too much that Reynolds is going to be able to take advantage, right? The second that 31 takes it a little bit too easy, messes up, gets a little deep on entry, lifts on the exit, it's over. So if Garrett Maines wants to win this race, he's going to have to be absolutely picture perfect. All the pressure right now on Maines, and Reynolds has plenty of options.
Look a little bit to the top side and maybe losing a little bit of time there, but he's just going to gain it back on exit. There he goes, trying to power his way around the number 31. Won't happen that time by as they go down the back straightaway, back through the final couple of corners at Phoenix. They are continuing to catch up to now the drivers that are just exiting the dog leg. It's Andrew Player and Brett Pancari, with the leaders now on their back bumper here soon. You just saw them tail end of the camera shot. They're gonna need to come in soon for service, as you see those two net race leaders battling at the tail end of the back straightaway. They're about to be battling for the actual race lead, as Player in the Maconi setup shop livery continues to lead. Brett Pancari in second place. And once again, both of them still need to pit. Both of them on 76 lap old General tires. Will it be this time by? Not for Player, not for Pancari, and trying to find a way around will be Vinny Tigner. Now the 91 at Tigner ran into some problems at some point on the racetrack. He is currently 3 laps down and 1 lap down to the next driver that he would be fighting on the racetrack, which is Sean Winkler for P17. But down goes Brett Pancari to your 2 net race leaders as they will power their way through, and Reynolds tries to power his way into the net race lead. Maines holds strong on the outside line, but Reynolds isn't done. Side by side down the back straightaway, Reynolds has to give way as he slides right back into line.
Well, that goes with what we talked about, right? The fact that Reynolds has options here, and he could wait, but also, I think that as soon as he sees an opening to try to catch Garrett Main sleeping, he could go for it, and timing it right at that moment was a great attempt for Reynolds. It almost kind of wakes up Garrett Mains, right? They're going to get underneath the 13 of Andrew Player. It's going to hang up the 66 of Reynolds a little bit on the exit of 2, but now we have gone full circle at Phoenix Raceway, and cycling back to the race lead is Garrett Mains. He'll lead his 23rd lap of the afternoon, and now Blake Reynolds has 22 laps to go to make this pass happen. And I have to say, for Andrew Player and Brett Pancari, drivers who are roaming around the number 10 position, I mean, they're going to lose a mammoth amount of positions in terms of the end of this race. This move, for them being the only ones on the strategy and to have already gotten passed by the race leaders who have pitted, means that they're going to, basically they went for broke. They went for the race win or nothing, and unless they get a yellow here quick, they're going to walk away with nothing, because that battle's going to simmer them way off of the lead lap, and they'll be in the high teens before this race is said and done. So they tried it, even without having come down to the pit lane yet. I think it's been a bust. And now we'll see what Reynolds can do. And Reynolds used that lap traffic as, not even lap traffic, used that traffic, the race leaders, as an opportunity to try to set a pick. Well, there's some more traffic up the road, Vinny Tiggeter and as well Sean Winkler. So do these drivers hold up the leaders at all? I just keep an eye on Reynolds, because he's always looking for an opportunity. And those lap cars are going to go side by side in front of the leaders. 17 car, Winkler going to get up and out of the way.
20 laps left. So to the outside line goes the 17 of Winkler. Vinny Tigner now going to be in the way of these race leaders. Where are they looking to go? As Tigner, the 91, putting down some solid lap times. 28.855 last time by, 28.888 by Garrett Mains. So the 91 is holding up some solid pace, and it's not going to be quite easy for these leaders to get around, and I wouldn't say he's exactly holding them up. So it's going to be interesting to see where the 31 and the 66 will find their way through, and it looks like the 91's not going to fight them on this one. He'll move out of the way, and now into the final 2 corners from Phoenix, right by the start-finish line again. 18 to go, and the first caution of the night is thrown. Nate Stewart, Jonathan Otez get tangled up, and this changes everything. Evan Pasoko, 18 to go, and the first yellow flag.
Well, I was just dogging on him, but credit to Pancari and Player for staying out, right? They could have just simply decided, hey, this thing's done as soon as they got lapped past and come down to the pit lane, but you can see it there. Contact between the 4 and a little bit of extracurricular activity. It didn't end after the first touch, as the 4 and the 73 of Otez get into it, and it carries on to the pit lane, and now all of a sudden Pancari and Player going to be drivers inside of the top 5. There had to have been something that led up to this, because that was a whole lot of avoidable contact, and now we're all going to come down, get some fresh tires, and get set for a shootout inside of 15 to go. Everybody needs to execute cleanly here on pit road.
Drivers that stayed out, doesn't look like, Jeff Maconi did not pit, so Blake Reynolds pits. Garrett Mains is going to win the race off of the pit lane. He ends up off first. Brett Pancari will come out P3. So how about ya for the 35 of Pancari? Bickford will come out 4th. Andrew Player comes out 5th. And the strategy has indeed paid off for the 13 and the 35. They end up staying out on the racetrack, and Jeff Maconi will come into the pit lane now. Maybe stayed out to grab a free pass, and now back on the lead lap. Will work his way into the pit lane, but Garrett Mains will lead. Blake Reynolds in second, and it's an inverse of how we began this race. Evan, can Blake Reynolds get by Mains on this restart? It's gonna be close, because remember the initial start of this race, Mains started on the outside line in second place and was able to make that move on Reynolds on lap 1.
I do find the decision for Maconi to stay out a little bit interesting, because he did cycle through to the race lead. He was actually coming to pit road and then accelerated, and I wondered if he was trying to lead a lap. But by the time he actually got around, because he was held up behind the 4 lapped cars, he had to slow down. And the way that that pit road cuts so much out of 3 and 4 means that the lap was actually led by cars on pit roads. So Maconi did lead this race, but he did not lead a lap, and then subsequently decided to come down to the pit lane. So after all of that, he'll cycle through to the 12th position. Not a huge loss, but he was an 8th at the moment of the yellow. So an overall loss for the 03 car, bit of a gamble gone wrong. And now we'll see, right? Punkari player got what they wanted. You know, I had said they were dead to rights because most of the time when you go for the broke and the race leaders pass you, you give up, right? You come down to the pit lane, but they had about 5 laps more of fuel. They said, let's stick this one out. They get the yellow, and now it may not have worked out quite as well as they wanted, but they've at least got an opportunity to fight for the race win here. Wave around going to go to Dakota Bro, so 14 cars going to be on the lead lap for this one, and we will see round 3 of Garrett Maines v. Blake Reynolds, and we'll see if anybody else has got speed to join in on the party for the first restart of the night. Going to be 14 laps to go when we come by.
A lot to play for on this restart, and everybody knows the saying, cautions breed cautions. Will that stay the same here in the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown? 14 to go when they hit the start-finish line this time by. It's Maines versus Reynolds on the front row. Punkari, Bickford, and Player the top 5. Ryder, Schildhouse, Proudfoot, and more rounding out the top 10. The Geico restart zone for Garrett Maines. He's on the loud pedal. We're back racing from Virtual Phoenix, and with 14 to go, he gets the restart he needed. Punkari is going to be set to try and fight with Blake Reynolds for P2 as Garrett Maines sees side by side in the rear view mirror, now trying to run away with the race win.
And Reynolds going to make quick work of Brett Punkari, who can't get the run off of turn number 2 that he needed. So Reynolds clear for second. Bickford slides into third. And now Punkari going to struggle still on the inside. Seth Ryder going to be the next driver running around him. So despite the good start, Punkari can't keep the speed up. And now the question is, Garrett Maines launched out to a 4-car length advantage. Can that be enough?
Maines goes wide through turns 2 and 3. He'll exit off of the corner, and Maines with a solid gap now of 0.3 of a second, trying to hold on now for the race lead. 12 to go this time by, and with Maines out in front, 0.3 is the gap. James Bickford now is going to try and reel back in these leaders, and it's an exact carbon copy of where we were at the beginning of this race. All of 89 laps ago as Maines goes wide. It's the exact same top 4, and now the battle for the lead is on. Reynolds to the bottom, Maines on the outside line, side by side. One small mistake from the 31 going wide in the final corner has opened the door for the General Tire 66 on the inside. They hit on each other, door slamming off of turn number 3. Maines being aggressive on the outside line, trying to hold on to this race lead. Bickford is closing from third as well. 10 to go at the line, and Reynolds wants the race lead.
And all over each other like we saw earlier in this race, but Reynolds has always prevailed long run. He does not have that same amount of time to work these General Tires in. There is no conserving going on. It is 100% full tilt coming to 10 laps to go this time. Bickford still watching on for third. Hasn't led a lap tonight, but if these race leaders get into each other, he's ready to pick up the pieces. You're on board with the 29. They got to stay above the yellow. Apron's not an option, and the 31 of Reynolds, or the 66 of Reynolds, I should say, can't get to the 31 of Maines. Tucks in line. He'll have to reset and try again, but he can't wait too long because the 29 anxiously biting at his heel.
And remember, that last move for the race lead by Blake Reynolds was made by a small mistake from Maines going into this corner right here, the final corner on this racetrack. Will Maines make that same mistake again as Reynolds tucked back into line? Now 8 laps to go. Bickford in third, watches them go side by side again. It's an aggressive move to the inside for Blake Reynolds, side by side again, but the 66 can only get to the 31's door. How good of a run off the the corner was that one for Maines. Not good enough. Back to 3 and 4, and Blake Reynolds on the inside has a small advantage, but at the line, Maines is going to continue to lead. 7 laps to go. Back to turn 1. It's still Reynolds on the inside. Drives it in deep. Can he clear him? No, he can't. Contact made. They both go up the racetrack, and James Bickford for Charlotte Phoenix goes to the race lead.
It's exactly what he was waiting for. I mentioned if the leaders got together, he would be there, and Reynolds got a little bit impatient, trying to go for the slide job, was not clear. Both he and Maines stay on track, but all of a sudden, Bickford's got clean air, and Seth Ryder now slides into second, so Reynolds and Maines going to have to deal with the 2 before they can even think about the 29. And I think that 2 car is going to serve as a great blocker here. Bickford 5 laps away from stealing the win here at Phoenix.
And you cannot shortchange the 2 of Seth Ryder in keeping up these 2 eNASCAR competitors. Remember, Ryder, the winner from Charlotte Motor Speedway in the opening round of the season. Reynolds has to go full lock on the wheel to avoid spinning that number 66. He'll dive it again into 1. Contact with the 2. Sliding, a big drift from the General Tire number 66. He saves it again, but now to second place goes Maines. To third goes Pancari. Reynolds now having to sacrifice from P4, 3 wide off the corner. He'll go for third again, now side by side with the 35, but 4 to go, and Bickford 6/10 to the good on Garrett Maines.
And not happy with the way that one played out is Ryder. That was 2 missed slide jobs to Blake Reynolds. And Ryder, who entered tonight second in the championship, only 2 points behind Reynolds, took a swipe at him. And the 2 car not done yet. He'll go back underneath the 35 of Brett Pancari. They're going to go side by side for 4th and 5th position. 2 can't make it stick on the inside. Pancari plays some defense. And through all of that, Garrett Maines gets back to P2. He is faster than James Bickford, but he is running up against the clock. 2 laps to go this time by. Bickford just needs to back it down and stay safe, and sideways off of 2 is Pancari.
Bickford trying to become the 3rd different winner in the first 3 rounds of this 5-round campaign. 2 laps to go on the speedway, and at the front of the field, he is known for Monday night racing in this season of iRacing. He has been in multiple seasons now of Monday night racing with the Charlotte Phoenix team, and that number 29 is looking to come home a winner in the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown. Out of turn 4, white flag is in the air. 1 final lap for James Bickford in the number 29. And through turns 1 and 2 again, Garrett Maines to the tune of 4/10. Doesn't look like he's gonna have enough, and down the back straightaway for the final time. Maines is loose, trying to get all he can out of that number 31, but it's not gonna be enough. The big dive for Maines will not have enough time. James Bickford is a 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown winner. He takes it from Virtual Phoenix.
And what a drive. He leads the final 7 laps of this race, and it was a combination of a little bit of luck and a lot of skill, right? We saw Reynolds, we saw Maines get together, but they had plenty of laps to close back in. Maines was driving that race car as hard as he could, but in the end, Bickford put no foot wrong. He kept the race car underneath him, and when it mattered the most, the 29 car stepped up to the plate, and he's got some celebrating to do here at Phoenix Raceway.
And the number 29 is burning it down on the front straightaway, and a well-deserved burnout at that. The 2 race leaders push each other out of the way, and James Bickford grabs the race win. And let's take a look at your full finishing results for round number 3 of the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown. How about ya for the 29 of James Bickford? He takes the win. Garrett Maines will come home second. second, Blake Reynolds in third, Brett Punkari in fourth. Rounding out your top five, it was Seth Ryder. David Schildhouse in sixth, Nate Stewart in seventh, Brandon Proudfoot who comes home P8, Joey Mazowitz P9. Rounding out your top 10 was Andrew Player in the number 13. Back from there, it was Jeff Maconi coming home P11, Eric Sellers 12th with Dakota Bro in 13th, Zach Knowles 14th, Sean Winkler rounding out your top 15, Vinny Tigner 16th, Jonathan Otez in P17, Presley Sora, Trevor Edwards, and Josh Edmondson rounding out the 20 drivers that took the green flag here tonight. We saw Sora's issues on pit lane. Not sure, believe it was connection issues that happened for Trevor Edwards, and it was a slat tap to the wall and then a speeding penalty down the pit lane that pushed the 58 of Josh Edmondson back into the garage area. But after an incredible third round of the season, I mean, what more could be said about this campaign? We now sit with 3 different winners in 3 different rounds. Round 1 saw Seth Ryder take the checkered flag. Round 2 at Sonoma, a dominating performance from Blake Reynolds. And then round 3 here tonight, what looks to be a dominating performance by 2 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series regulars in Maines and Reynolds. It ended up being an incredible fight between those two, and James Bickford being right place, right time to pick up the pieces. An absolutely fantastic race we saw tonight from iRacing's Virtual Phoenix Raceway, and we'll begin the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown post-race show, and we will get to talk with hopefully your top 3. But right now we will be standing by with Garrett Maines in that number 31, and just a fantastic run from Maines tonight, and one of the dominant cars of the race. But the contact with Blake Reynolds then took him out of contention, and we will be able to speak with that number 31 of Garrett Maines. Garrett, welcome back to the Racecraft TV broadcast booth. Of course, not behind the wheel of a rally car tonight, behind the wheel of that Orca Menard Series machine, and it looked like it was your race to lose in more ways than one. It was, but what happened there with the contact with Blake Reynolds?
I was kind of, I guess, in his way, and I wasn't crossing him up like I guess he assumed I would. I knew he wasn't going to be able to make that stick, and I didn't want to give up the second groove, and he shipped it in there and committed. And I don't know really if I could have done anything different. The best thing I could have done in that situation was not give up the top, so he just used me up, and then I followed him and watched him do it again. So thankfully I got back by him by the same by the same move, but it is what it is. I literally hit the wall going into 3 and completely blew the corner twice, just getting a little too close. Right rear hangs out on these cars, and I did it at Charlotte, did it again tonight. Just, I don't know what it is. I'm used to being able to really hug it in the next gen, and reference points are a little bit different in this car, but that was disappointing. I thought I was going to have enough time to catch James there at the end, but then I looked down and it was like 4 to go, and it was too much too late, but I don't know. I don't know what we could have done different at the end. I had to play my cards the way I did, and it just didn't pan out our way.
Still some solid performance out of that Chevy tonight that definitely cannot be scoffed at. And racing in this series, Talladega on the horizon, and then of course Stafford Motor Speedway. The next 2 rounds are going to be exciting, but tonight with that side-by-side battle with Blake Reynolds, just coming out here to have a little bit of fun, not a whole lot on the line, but just to race in some of the most fun cars, in my personal opinion, on the service has got to be worth something, even though you had a little bit of contact with a 66, but all in all, it's coming out here to have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I definitely wanted to win this race. It's one of my favorite tracks, but I was having a hard time with the closed dog leg. It does not fit my style at all. It changes the track completely, because the way I always drive this track is soft off of 4 and then cut down, and then you can't do that in this car. This car's all momentum, and there's no way to, cut the track to compensate. So it's like balls to the wall the whole time, or you're slow. And I don't know. I wasn't expecting that tonight at all, but learning curve. We'll be back here in the Coke Series, so hopefully I'll be able to pick up where we left off and have a good race there too.
And a good run for you tonight, Garrett. Who makes it all possible for you in that number 31? Who do you have to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to ChevyLiners.com, Leaf Filter Gutter Protection, Colleague Racing, Elliott Sadler Esports, MCU Body, Linux, and I think Chris for putting this on. It's been fun. Hopefully, I'll be able to make the next 2 rounds and make a run for the championship. We'll see.
And congrats again on your second place tonight. That was the 31 of Garrett Maines. Comes home in P2 tonight, and we'll be able to now speak with your race winner on the evening, James Bickford in the number 29. You are a Summer Showdown winner. How does this one feel coming out here on a Tuesday night after Monday Night Racing and coming home a winner in the Stock Car Summer Showdown? 3rd unique winner in 3 races.
Let's go. That was an exciting race, to say the least. I wasn't expecting the late race caution, and I knew when it came out that just on the initial starting speed, I was just as fast as the top 2 guys, and it just played out in our favor. The leaders got into each other. It gave me an opportunity to take the lead, and we were able to bring it home. So I'm pumped. Hopefully it was exciting for the fans, because from behind the steering wheel here, it was a ton of fun.
You had bridesmaid pace all night long, and you ended up being the bride at the end of the night, watching those 2 NASCAR stars in front of you, Maines and Reynolds, battling. Was it one of those things in the back of your mind that you were thinking, if they go up and hit each other, then I'm right in the perfect spot? Or were you expecting that to happen, or was it just kind of one of those intrusive thoughts that just wouldn't go away?
I didn't think that it would happen that way. I can tell you that. In my head, I was like, oh, they're going to door each other. It's going to get me closer, and then we'll have to race it out. I didn't know that they would slow up and check up that much in that corner. So when I exited and I saw I had about a 6-7 car length lead, and they were side by side, I was like, wow, we might win this one. So it paid off. Our strategy didn't work necessarily how we wanted to. And like I said, that late race caution just kind of playing in our favor.
And I know you have a lot of people to thank, and a lot of people make it possible for you. Who are they? Who do you have to give a shout out to? Who do you got a name?
Oh, of course. I mean, look, Matt Scott, he's been my driver coach since I was 4 years old, racing real cars. And he comes in and he spots for the Monday Night Racing stuff and the Tuesday stuff, and also when I race in real life. So he spends all of his time with us, in the Discord, helping me out. So got to give a shout out to him. My dad is currently crew chiefing. I don't know how I was able to get him a Discord, number 1, but he wanted to participate. So he was on the box tonight, and I had a lot of people helping and supporting. But just got to give a shout out to Next Level Racing for supporting this series and running such a great league, and also for the chassis that I'm currently sitting in. They were so generous and part of the Charlotte Phoenix stuff that I'm working on to give me a rig. So I upgraded from my tooth floss and tissue paper to something real so I can compete.
Congratulations once again on your win tonight. That is the 29 of James Bickford, your winner from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. And now we speak to the other half of that side-by-side battle, which we get a great look at right now on your screen, of Blake Reynolds. And Blake, close but not enough tonight. Still 3rd, keeps you in the points battle, but I know you wanted a bit more on the track.
Yeah, dude, Phoenix is just such a good racetrack, especially in these lower horsepower cars. Like, when you can just, use up the tire. Seth had a lot of grip. Shout out Maconi for that. The tires were even all night, every pit stop. So it was just really good, solid base to race on. And then also just, 1 and 2 here on this newer version of Phoenix, there's so much grip in almost every lane, so you can really make your own line. And me and Garrett had such different lines and, I guess, philosophies around the entire racetrack. And, the removal of the dog leg, really, it's like a whole new racetrack, So, I mean, just a fun battle. I wasn't just going to sit in line there. Obviously, I'm going to go for the win. So I threw a couple sliders there. Obviously, that kind of screwed up both me and Garrett's finish. But, it's pretty cool that James was able to get the win out of all that. And, we were able to still finish 2nd, 3rd.
Let's transfer over to the points battle now, because I mentioned that you came into tonight as the points leader, 2 points over Seth Ryder in second place. You weren't able to put it in victory lane tonight, but third place gives you some very, very solid points, with Ryder finishing down in P5. Talladega up next, Stafford Motor Speedway. We all know Talladega is a wild card, so I guess I'll ask, how you feeling about Stafford Motor Speedway as the season finale?
I actually don't even own the track. I've never raced there. So that I mean, I know it's one of the older iRacing ovals. I do know a couple people that are like, that's like their main track. Like I know Ian Plash loves that place. I don't know. Other than that, I just know it's kind of like a short track, a flat short track. Talladega, I'm actually circling more for that. I guess just gonna avoid the crashes. I feel like I know how to make the top line work in this car at Talladega. It's really fun when you can't push. In these cars, you can't push just because the bumpers don't line up. So looking forward to that at Talladega. But yeah, fun race, and hopefully I didn't make any enemies tonight.
Well, congratulations again on your podium finish tonight. Who makes it all possible for you? Who do you got to say hi to?
Well, Jim Beaver eSports, of course, General Tire, Vision Wheel, Next Level Racing, all our partners on this whole operation in our eNASCAR and our Off-Road World Championship guys. I was trying to help them out this week, so I'll give a shout out to them. I think Brandon actually finished the highest of all of them. So a good showing for our off-road guys to get some oval experience, and I guess I'll thank my Dead Zone guys too.
Well, once again, congratulations on your third place finish. That's Blake Reynolds in the number 66. He comes home at P3. And of course, we have to talk to the ringleader of this whole thing, or I should say one of the ringleaders of this whole thing. We don't have Chris Leone with us, but we do have Jeff Maconi. And you didn't hold on to your top 10, Jeff. You finished P11, but I mean, you have a good looking race car, so I think I'll let it slide.
Wow, thanks for the high praise. Oh, we don't have Chris here, but I guess we've got Jeff, and you didn't get the top 10, but I guess it's okay.
Listen. You're one of the ringleaders. We cannot leave out Chris. Chris has got to be mentioned.
True. That's true.
I mean, he is online.
Well, I guess I'll have to do for you. Yeah, it was a great night. It was a lot of fun racing there. A little bit of contact between me and the 73 put us both in the wall, and that we talked about it afterwards. We're all good. Just hard racing. He was holding me down. I came up a bit, and just is what it is. But yeah, it was an amazing. It's amazing that we're already halfway through this series, and everyone that's been involved, the work behind the scenes has been amazing. Chris, the whole Jim Beaver eSports team, General Tire, Next Level Racing, Elliott Sadler eSports for jumping in, everyone involved. It's been amazing. So thank you to all of them, everybody that's helped to pitch in, and I'm lucky enough that I get to run in these events and manage behind the scenes and then jump in and race as well. But it would not be possible without all the amazing people going and working hard behind the scenes. General Tire, Next Level Racing, Jim Beaver eSports, Maconi Setup Shop, everyone involved. It's really incredible. And you guys as well for putting on an awesome broadcast and sitting and filling the air for 100 laps of one single caution at Phoenix.
Talladega Super Speedway next. Have you chosen anybody as your dancing partner yet for the tango that is the Talladega Super Speedway?
Oh, gosh, don't remind me. I think Joey and I are going to do our best to coordinate and run up front, but what's really difficult about the ARCA cars on iRacing is you cannot bump draft. You cannot make contact because they will lift the tires in the air and send somebody flying, literally flying through the air. So it's really tough. You have to have a lot of faith in the guys you're working with, and I think that's probably the advantage with us is we've got a very tight-knit group with Maconi Setup Shop, but Jim Beaver eSports is also very tight-knit as well. But I think Joey and I will be able to run really well, hopefully find a third, William Hale, if he's available, to come in and help us out and work our way to the front. I feel like my two best tracks are the two next tracks. I think Talladega, I've done very well at super speedways in the past on iRacing, and Stafford is my home track. I love it to death. I used a little bit of push and sway and strong arming to get that on the schedule. So I'm very excited for that race as well.
Well, we'll see you in the last 2 rounds, Jeff. Thank you once again for joining us here in the booth, and good luck at Talladega. We'll see you then.
Thank you. I'm going to need it. Thanks to you guys for an awesome broadcast. Great job.
That was Jeff Maconi of Maconi Setup Shop, and that brings us to the end of yet another race of the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown. But we are not done. Coming up next, it is the fastest, the biggest track in all of NASCAR competition. It is none other than the Talladega Super Speedway. Pack racing in these ARCA Menard Series cars is one of the most intense combinations that you can race on the iRacing service. So do not miss it when we go racing from virtual Talladega here on Racecraft TV, August 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place, right here on Racecraft TV. But that's going to do it for tonight's coverage from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. And we have 2 rounds left of the 2022 Stock Car Summer Showdown. We hope that you'll join us for both of those. For my colleague in the booth, Evan Pasoko, tonight, my name is Joshua Lee, and on behalf of everybody at Racecraft TV, we thank you for tuning in tonight. Congratulations to James Bickford of Charlotte Phoenix eSports. He is your winner from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. What's going to happen when we go racing from Talladega in 2 weeks? Tune in to find out.